They always say business and family don't mix. I used to think that was just something bitter people said when they failed. I was wrong. My name is Linnea Trask, and I was about to learn just how ruthless blood could be when there was money on the line. It started on a Friday morning that felt like any other. I was in the middle of negotiating a licensing agreement with a boutique skincare brand out of Denmark. My coffee still untouched beside my laptop, and my hair pulled into a messy twist because I hadn't had time to dry it. I liked the rush, the game. I liked knowing my firm was small but loud, and effective. We punched above our weight in the luxury branding world. That was supposed to be my edge. And then my phone buzzed. A text from Samantha, my assistant who'd been with me for 5 years. She never texted during a meeting unless it was serious. Sam, ***, need you. Emergency, come out. I excused myself, stepped into the hallway. What happened? I whispered, my heart already pounding. I'd had a bad feeling all morning, that inexplicable itch that something was about to snap. Sam looked up from her desk, eyes wide, voice low. You need to look at this. She turned her laptop toward me. It was a LinkedIn announcement. Victory PR has secured exclusive contracts with Belanov, Aru, and Skinside Laboratories. My breath caught. My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted. Those were my clients. Not just any clients either. My top 3. The accounts that made up nearly 40% of my revenue. Gone. But that wasn't the worst part. The smiling face next to the press release was my cousin, Trina. Trina Van Ness. I stared at her picture like it was someone I didn't know. Blonde, polished, in a bone-white blazer with gold buttons. Victory PR had always been her hobby. Her father funded it after she graduated with a communications degree and 0 job offers. She floundered for years, barely scraping together small, uninspired campaigns for real estate agents and candle shops. We'd talked, once, about joining forces. I said no. I'd built my firm from scratch. She hadn't. Now she had my clients. I blinked again. How? I said. Sam had already pulled up the emails. Each one had the same signature line. Linnea.trask@traskandfield.com. Mailtoe, Linnea.trask@traskandfield.com. But I hadn't sent them. They weren't written in my voice. They were full of grammar issues and odd phrasing. But the clients, busy, high-volume, jet-lagged executives, hadn't noticed. They thought the offers to terminate were from me. I scrolled. My throat tightened. This is fraud, I whispered. Sam nodded. We traced the IPs. They were sent from Leeds. You haven't been there since last year. Leeds. Trina lived in Leeds. I sat down on the edge of the desk. The room spun. 3 contracts terminated in less than a week. My email hacked. My reputation shredded. And I knew exactly who had done it. Trina. The last time we were in a room together was 6 months ago at our aunt's retirement dinner. She wore Versace and told anyone who'd listen she was on the verge of signing major brands in the cosmeceutical space. I didn't believe her then. I should have. Because apparently, her plan wasn't to build. It was to steal. And she did it with help. No way Trina could pull this off alone. She didn't understand the legal nuances of my agreements. She barely understood NDAs. Someone fed her my playbook. Sam leaned in. I think I know who helped her. I looked up. Callum. My jaw clenched so hard I thought I heard something crack. Callum Greaves, my former account executive. The one I'd trained. The one I brought into my most delicate deals. The one I promoted faster than anyone else. He left 2 months ago to start his own firm. No hard feelings, he said, just growth. Liar. He fed her everything. The client decks, the pricing strategy, the personality quirks that made each contract stick. I stood. Get me their full proposal, I said. I want to see what they offered. Sam pulled up the PDFs. I read them, page by page. They weren't just imitating me. They were replicating me. My format, my pitch cadence, the order of my value proposition. It was like reading a copy of myself through a dirty mirror. except for one difference: the closer. They had someone new doing final negotiations. And whoever it was, they were better than me. That hit harder than everything else. Find out who their closer is, I said. Sam nodded. She was already digging. She never stopped. It took 2 hours. The name came up buried in a buried line of a French PR trade newsletter. Nasht Kamerquite's Harper Laveau, former senior sales strategist at Alchemy Brands, joins Victory PR. My breath caught. Harper. I'd never met her, but I knew the name. Everyone in luxury marketing did. Harper was a myth, a rainmaker, a storm with heels and sharp questions. She'd been instrumental in getting Alchemy into 5 major retailers across Europe in less than 8 months. She wasn't just good, she was a legend. And she was working for Trina. I shut the laptop. My firm wasn't going to survive this. Not if I let them keep Harper. But what if I didn't? What if I made her mine? The plan formed in pieces over the weekend. I couldn't match Trina on budget, not anymore. But I could win on vision. On ethos. On grit. If Harper was half the strategist she was rumored to be, she'd see through Trina in 5 minutes. The woman couldn't sell water in a desert. I found Harper's old contact through an industry black book. She was listed as a private consultant, post-Alchemy. No public number, but an encrypted email. I sent her one line. Asterisk, we haven't met, but I know you're too sharp to stay at a firm built on theft. Coffee? No strings. Dermanea Trask asterisk. She responded 12 minutes later. Asterisk. I was wondering when you'd reach out. Tuesday, 8 a.m., Maison Rue. That night, I didn't sleep. Maison Rue was quiet at 7:50. I arrived early, on purpose. I wanted to see her first, get the read. She walked in at 7:58. Harper Laveau looked exactly how I imagined. Blazer tailored to perfection, low heels, dark auburn hair pulled back with surgical precision. But her eyes? They were colder than I expected. Calculating. She sat. Didn't smile. Before you say anything, I said, you deserve the truth. She said nothing, just watched me. So I laid it out, everything. The email hacks. The fake terminations. The theft. The betrayal. I didn't play victim, I played strategist. And you want me to switch sides, she said finally. I want you to work for someone who respects talent and doesn't need to steal to build. She raised a brow. You think that's you? I think that's what I'm becoming. She sipped her coffee, set it down. I need proof. Of what? That you can win back the clients. That you're worth betting on. I smiled. Then let me show you the new play. And I slid a folder across the table. The one Sam and I had been building for 48 hours straight. A new pitch, a new niche, something neither Trina nor Harper had seen coming. She opened it. Read the top page, then the next, then the next. Halfway through, she closed the folder. You have 10 days, she said. I blinked. To what? To prove you can pull this off. If you do, I'm yours. If not... She stood. You never contact me again. Quote. She walked out. I sat in the silence of the cafe, her coffee still steaming across from me. 10 days. That's all I had to resurrect my firm and steal back the very weapon Trina used to destroy me. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're from. If this story moves you, please subscribe. Tomorrow, I have a special story for you. The minute Harper walked out of that cafe, I knew I had exactly 10 days to rebuild a company that had taken me 10 years to construct. The task was impossible, but I'd always done my best work with my back against a wall. The clock started ticking. I didn't go home, I went straight to the office. Sam was already there. She took one look at my face and didn't ask anything, just opened her laptop. She gave me 10 days, I said. We need to land 3 new clients, minimum. Preferably ones in the same category as the ones we lost. Big names, but different enough that we're not chasing the same exact lanes. Sam didn't blink. She was already pulling a list. I want ethical skincare, yes. But let's push into a lifestyle crossover, wellness, clean fragrance, boutique supplements. European adjacent but not Euro-locked. She typed like her fingers were on fire. I kept pacing. Also, I added, I want fresh founders. First-time brand builders. The kind of people who hate big firms. She looked up. You want rebels? I nodded. Exactly. I want people who are allergic to the Trinas of the world. By noon, we had 12 names. By 2 p.m., we had 10 draft emails ready. By 4, I had a Zoom meeting with the founder of Celine Drops, a rising, adaptogen-infused skincare line out of Bristol. Her name was Mara. Bare-faced, sharp, and brutally direct. Why did you lose your last 3 clients? She asked point blank. I smiled. Because I trusted someone who wasn't worth trusting, and I'm not making that mistake again. She liked that. We talked for 40 minutes. She signed a 90-day exploratory contract by end of day. 1 down. But I needed 2 more. The next 48 hours were a blur. I slept on my office couch, ate protein bars, and sipped lukewarm coffee. Sam was a ghost in the same hallway, working on deck designs and micro-influencer strategy plans until her eyes went red. We scored a meeting with the founder of an Icelandic cold-press face serum brand. She was skeptical, didn't trust anyone, especially not someone who'd just had a public loss. You don't seem embarrassed, she said, somewhere around minute 25. Because I'm not, I replied. You don't let shame define you, you let it teach you. She didn't say anything. Then she slid the contract forward. 2 down. That night, I went back to Maison Rue, not to meet anyone, just to sit, to think. The cafe was half empty, and the same barista was behind the counter. Another meeting? She asked, recognizing me. I shook my head. Just breathing tonight. She smiled softly. You look like you're winning something. I wanted to laugh. I felt anything but. I went home, slept a real 6 hours, then came back to the office with one goal, the final client. This one had to be loud, unmissable, something Trina would hear about no matter where she was. A direct hit. That meant Marlo. Marlo was the name on everyone's lips at last year's BioBeauty conference in Amsterdam. They were fresh, unorthodox, and backed by a private investor group with unlimited funding. They hadn't chosen a branding agency yet. The founder, Elliot Lark, was famous for his lone wolf approach. He hated outsourcing. But everyone wanted him. He was my Everest. Sam looked doubtful. He doesn't take meetings. He doesn't reply to outreach. He will for me. Why? Because I'm not going to email him. I flew to Zurich the next morning. I knew Marlo's distribution team was presenting at a quiet formulation expo on the east end of the city. I bought an expo pass under a fake company name, walked the floor, waited. And when Elliot Lark stepped off the stage, tall, lean, wearing jeans and a black Henley like he'd just come from yoga, I intercepted him with a simple question. Why are you still running your launch deck in PowerPoint? He stopped, turned, raised an eyebrow. You have 5 seconds, he said. You're a revolution pretending to be a startup. The world wants a rebellion, not another wellness brand with a minimalist label. I know how to light that fire. Silence. Then he said, walk with me. We talked for 40 minutes in the hallway. He asked questions no other founder had asked. About values. About equity. About how I handled brand collapses. I told him the truth. All of it. Every gritty part. At the end, he said nothing. Just took my card. 2 days later, I got a text. Pretty Elliot, asterisk, asterisk. Send me a 1-page vision by midnight. I sent 3. Bold, wild, personal. He signed a 3-month limited launch contract the next morning. 3 down. I called Harper the moment the contract came through. She picked up. You made your point. Then let's talk next steps. My fee is double what Trina paid me. I didn't blink. Done. I want decision authority over pitch structure and final close. Agreed. And I want a profit share on any client I bring in myself. You'll have it in writing tomorrow. Pause. Then, I'll be at your office Monday, 8 a.m. Click. She was mine. When Harper walked into the office that Monday morning, it was like the temperature dropped 10 degrees. Sam sat up straighter. The intern stopped chewing her pen. Harper didn't walk. She sliced through the room like a gust of calculation and couture. We had no ceremony, no onboarding. She dropped her bag, rolled up her sleeves, and opened her laptop. First, she said, we go on the offensive. She drafted a press release within an hour. Nimes Harper Laveau joins Trask and Field. New clients, new vision, no apologies. Then she scheduled back-to-back calls with every media contact she had. Within 24 hours, 4 different marketing blogs picked up the story. Trina saw it. I knew she did. Because she called me. Blocked number. Middle of the night. You really think this changes anything? She snapped. Her voice sounded brittle, furious. I didn't respond. They were mine first, she added. That made me laugh. No, Trina, they were never yours. You just stole them. That's not the same as earning them. She hung up. The next 2 weeks were war. Trina launched a targeted campaign trying to discredit me. She posted cryptic comments on industry threads, hinting that I was unstable, that I drove my best employees away, that I couldn't keep up. But every time she launched a jab, Harper countered with a strike. We started releasing behind-the-scenes content from the new client campaigns. Voice clips from brainstorming, photos of our team at 11 p.m. in war room huddles. Real grit, real work. The industry started paying attention. So did clients. By the 3rd week, I had 3 more proposals on my desk. One was from a fragrance house that had initially rejected me in favor of Victory PR. We regret the decision, their email said. We should have followed our instincts. Harper leaned against my doorframe that night. We're ahead of schedule, she said. I looked up from my laptop. How far ahead? Far enough that Trina's going to have to pull a stunt soon. What kind of stunt? Desperate one. She was right. Because 2 days later, a client of ours got a message from Victory PR offering double their current rate at 0 fees for 3 months. Poaching. But the client forwarded the email to me with a note. Asterisk, you must be doing something right if she's this scared. Asterisk, I sent it to Harper. She sent me back a 1-word reply. Knife asterisk, winning. Asterisk, knife asterisk, side of. We launched our first campaign with Marlowe 2 weeks later. It broke every rule. We used unedited founder audio, live shot footage from a real product batch, and a narrated manifesto. It went viral in 3 days. Glamour wrote a feature. A-list influencers posted organic testimonials. Our inquiries tripled. And Victory PR? Their site went down for 3 hours one afternoon. Rumor was, their entire design team had quit. I never confirmed it, I didn't need to. Because I already knew what mattered. Trina had used theft to climb a ladder. I used grit to build a new one. And this time, I wasn't climbing alone. We were closing the quarter when Harper walked into my office with a fresh pitch deck. What's this? I asked. She smiled. Phase 2. Already? You didn't think I joined just to clean up a mess, did you? I looked at the title slide. Trask and Field Global Launch. 5 cities, 1 standard. I looked back up. Harper, are we ready for this? She just smirked. We're overdue. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared. Because for the first time in months, I wasn't surviving. I was building Turk's Times. Again. And this time, nobody was going to steal it from me. We didn't call it a comeback. We didn't need to. The numbers spoke for us. Revenue was up 38% within the first month of Harper's arrival. Site traffic spiked. Press inquiries flooded in. Our calendar filled with meetings we hadn't even requested. But what really told me we were back wasn't the numbers. It was the way Sam smiled without trying to fake it. Or the way Harper started humming when she worked. Or the way our newest intern, Danny, bounced on her toes outside my office the day she closed her first cold pitch. We had rebuilt the agency. And this time, it wasn't just mine, it felt like ours. The global expansion plan Harper slid across my desk was bold even for me. 5 cities, 4 months, 1 rotating campaign cycle. We'll build region-specific playbooks, she explained, her voice smooth and clipped. Paris, Copenhagen, San Francisco, Montreal, and Seoul. Why Seoul? Quote, because Trina can't go there. That made me pause. You mean language barriers? No, Harper said, lips curling into a sharp smirk. I mean because Seoul doesn't tolerate pretense. They'll see right through her. The first city we targeted was Paris. It wasn't just because I loved the food. Though God, the food. It was because I knew the buyer at La Maison du Verre, one of the top luxury wellness distributors in France. Her name was Soline. We met at a trade dinner years ago, where we both mocked a drunk CEO trying to explain influencer reach to a room full of exhausted women. I called her. Asked for 20 minutes. She gave me 10. I flew to Paris with Harper, Sam, and Danny. We sat at a cafe in Le Marais while the rain started to come down in sheets. Harper was flawless in a beige coat. Danny was soaking wet and looked like a damp puppy. Sam was quietly calculating translations. Be sharp, I whispered. Soline hates fluff. She arrived in a navy trench, not a hair out of place. Linnea, she said, kissing both cheeks. Why are you alive again? I laughed. Because some things don't die just because you want them to. Good, she said. Now pitch me something better than the last clown who tried. Harper took it from there. She spoke in fluent French, slow and cool. No sales pitch, just a story. How a small team, broken by betrayal, decided not to fold. How we rebuilt, client by client, brand by brand. How our campaigns focused on truth over polish. And how we could bring something new to the Parisian market, raw luxury. By the end, Soline leaned back. You've grown claws, Linnea, she said. I like it. She signed a limited distribution test the next day. EUs. Back in London, we prepped for the Copenhagen leg. This one was tougher. Danish markets didn't buy into drama. They respected utility, function, realism. I brought in Emily, a Danish strategist I knew from a climate branding initiative 2 years ago. She helped us reframe our messaging, less narrative, more data. We used transparency reports, carbon offsets, life cycle branding. It worked. We secured a partnership with Fjordwell, a vitamin-infused hydration brand, with one of the most loyal customer bases in Scandinavia. Then came San Francisco. Anna Twent. This one was personal. One of our past clients, Belanov, had relocated their HQ there after the Victory PR steal. They were now working on a tech-meets-skin crossover product called Skynchip. The moment I saw the launch trailer, my chest tightened. They were using one of my old phrases, beauty that responds. They didn't just steal clients, I told Harper. They stole my words. Then, steal them back, she said. We did. We pitched a rival brand, Arda, that had been inching toward the same lane but hadn't figured out how to communicate their value. We gave them a voice, a platform, a billboard in the Bay. The campaign dropped 1 week before Skynchip's soft launch. Our ad went viral on Threads. We don't respond to your skin. We listen to it. Skynchip trended, but for the wrong reasons. They were called derivative, hollow, forced. Arda? They sold out pre-orders. After Montreal, which Harper ran solo and crushed, we prepared for Seoul. This was the riskiest leg. Not just because it was the hardest market to break, but because it was the only one where we had no prior contacts. We'll need someone local, Harper said. Someone who understands nuance. Sam found her. Min-jae Kim, freelance strategist. Former in-house creative lead for Amore Pacific. She was a powerhouse in sneakers. We flew her in. She reviewed our deck, shook her head. This reads like you're showing off. Koreans won't like that. They want humility, not bravado. We scrapped the deck. She rebuilt it with us, taught us what needed to be unsaid, when to bow, what to omit, how to signal power through silence. The campaign launched. It didn't just land, it exploded. Local influencers picked it up. A Seoul-based entrepreneur platform invited us to speak. Donnie was interviewed on a Korean podcast about ethical branding. We were finally global. But success didn't come without ripples. I started getting anonymous texts. First, they were vague. Tamlayoy asterisk, you know this won't last. Asterisk. Then more pointed. Muna, you got Harper. The board will find out. Asterisk. I showed them to Harper. She narrowed her eyes. Trina. Or someone she hired. Harper was quiet for a long moment. I burned a bridge to leave her, she said. But I didn't destroy the forest. Maybe I should have. It all came to a head 2 weeks later. We were in the middle of final edits for a campaign when Sam walked in, white-faced. You need to see this, now. She turned her screen. It was a leak, a fake email chain. It claimed Harper had poached clients illegally, that we had manipulated NDAs. It painted me as complicit. The document was stamped with an anonymous whistleblower claim. The story broke on 2 mid-tier industry sites. I felt sick. Harper didn't flinch. That's not my language. They forged it. I can prove it. We called our legal team, sent counterclaims, verified headers, proved forgery. But the damage was real. Clients got nervous. One pulled a campaign, another asked for a pause. Trina had hit back. One pants puck. We held an emergency press roundtable. Harper stood beside me. Sam and Danny flanked the flanks. We answered every question. Transparent, calm, no spin. Then Harper did something that made my breath catch. She opened her own NDA from her contract with Victory PR. I hereby waive my own confidentiality, she said, because I have nothing to hide. You could feel the room shift. No one fakes that kind of boldness. By the next morning, 4 separate pieces had run retractions. Victory PR went silent. I didn't hear from Trina again. But that night, as I locked up the office, I saw a message etched in Sharpie on the back of our front door. Times asterisk, you won, for now, asterisk. The next quarter, we went fully remote for 1 week. Harper called it a wellness retreat. Danny called it a victory detox. We needed it. I spent those days alone in the Highlands, hiking a trail that made my thighs scream. I didn't check email. Didn't read headlines. Didn't care. Because for once, I wasn't fighting anymore. I was Pritika living, breathing, planning. And when I came back, there was a box waiting on my desk. No return label. Inside was a tiny plaque. It read, Times asterisk. To the woman who made ashes look like the starting line. Asterisk. Underneath it was a single note. From Harper. Times asterisk. You built it again, but this time you let us help. That was the real win. Asterisk. I held the plaque for a long time. And for the first time in what felt like a century, I cried. Not from defeat. From gratitude. From pride. From the sheer miracle of still being here. 2 more great stories are next. Don't miss them. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The return to routine was anything but routine. After the retreat, we came back to a firm that had transformed itself, no longer reacting to sabotage, but evolving past it. That was Harper's mantra. Don't just repair, reinvent. And we were doing exactly that. But with growth came scrutiny. Our success had made us loud. And the louder we got, the more ears perked up. Not all of them friendly. It started with a strange request. A company named Viridian Wellness reached out through a contact form on our site. Their message was vague. Times asterisk. Looking to discuss potential brand elevation. We prefer discreet channels. Willing to pay premium for exclusivity and quick turnaround. Asterisk Tai, times bead. I read it 3 times. Harper said nothing, but her mouth tightened the way it always did when she smelled a setup. Vet them, I told Sam. She did, and came back with something curious. There's no public record of them beyond a P.O. box in Manchester and a Shell LLC filed 3 months ago. No founder name, no product images, just that name and a half-finished website with a launch soon timer. Donnie, ever the digital bloodhound, dug deeper. They're following everyone who's ever mentioned Victory PR, every exec, every strategist, me, you, even old interns. So I called it. Ignore it. If it's real, they'll find a cleaner way to reach out. If it's bait, we don't bite. But they didn't go away. Instead, Viridian started showing up everywhere, indirectly. They sponsored a panel at a conference we were attending in Vienna. They launched a press page featuring anonymous advisors, one of whom bore a striking resemblance to a former client we'd pitched months ago. And then, the kicker, they offered triple our rate to one of our vendors, asking them to break their exclusivity clause. We found out because the vendor forwarded us the entire chain. Thought you'd want to see what snakes look like up close, she'd written. Harper exhaled slowly, staring at the screen. They're not hiding anymore. The pieces clicked faster than I wanted them to. Viridian wasn't a startup. It was a front. A Trojan horse. And when I said the theory out loud, Harper confirmed it without missing a beat. It's Trina. She's trying to re-enter under a different name, strip away the baggage, pretend Victory PR never existed. Why not just come back as herself? Because the industry knows. She poisoned her brand when she forged that email chain and tried to sink us. She can't resurrect it, so she's skinning it and wearing a new mask. The question was, how far would she go? We didn't wait to find out. Harper called a closed-door meeting. No interns, no juniors, just me, her, Sam, and Emily, who'd stayed on board as our new regional lead for European expansion. We need to do what we always do, Harper said. Build. But this time, we don't just scale the brand. We set the standard. If Trina's reinventing herself, then we make damn sure her new face can't breathe without being compared to ours. How? By beating her to every market she thinks she can exploit. Sam slid over a chart. We mapped Viridian's digital breadcrumbs. They're running SEO tests in the wellness beauty tech trifecta, Berlin, Chicago, and Singapore. Emily pointed to Berlin. I have family there. I can anchor it. Harper looked at me. You trust me to run Singapore? I trust you to run a war. This is just another battlefield. She smiled. Good. Then we're agreed. We cut her off before she breathes. Berlin was brutal. Unlike Paris, the market wasn't swayed by our wins. They wanted credentials, background, clinical tests, accreditation. So we partnered with a local lab, created a pop-up consumer testing booth that merged science and experience. Donnie flew in and ran live demos with our Icelandic serum client. Consumers lined up to measure skin response data in real time. The feedback? Electric. German press covered it. We trended locally. And Viridian? Their own stealth teaser campaign fizzled within a day. Chicago hit harder. It wasn't that we failed. It was that Trina beat us to it. We walked into a meeting with a potential brand partner only to see Viridian's marketing mock-ups already in the room. The founder, a nervous but charming biochemist, looked sheepish. They pitched us first, she admitted, but honestly, their energy felt cold. Your pitch has heart. Harper leaned forward. Then let us earn this. Let us show you what a real partnership looks like. The woman smiled. You have 4 days. We didn't sleep. We didn't blink. On the 4th day, she signed. They pretended to understand the product, she said, but you actually cared. Singapore was different. It wasn't about style. It was about scale. Harper flew in, Danny joined remotely, and we built an entire regional launch strategy in 5 days. But just as we were about to finalize our first campaign, Harper called. We have a problem. What is it? Viridian has launched a smear blog. Anonymous? Not anymore. They used my photo in the header. The blog was filled with half-truths, twisted quotes, and selective screenshots. The goal was obvious. Discredit Harper's authority. It backfired. Because instead of staying quiet, Harper posted a rebuttal. She didn't deny her past. She framed it. Asterisk, I joined Trask and Field after watching it rise from ashes not once, but twice, and I stood beside a woman who didn't flinch when her family tried to break her. If that makes me a threat, then good. It went viral. Support poured in from clients, allies, and even strangers. A well-known industry strategist reposted it with the caption, Asterisk, hire women who burn brighter when cornered. Trina stayed silent. Veridian's blog was taken down. With the 3 markets secured, we came home to London ready for Phase 2. It wasn't just about blocking Trina anymore. It was about leading. We launched an initiative called Turst About Brand Truth, a public-facing transparency commitment where clients could opt in to share the real behind-the-scenes of brand building. Successes, failures, arguments, revisions, the messy parts no one talked about. It was terrifying. It was honest. It was ours. And it resonated. People followed. Clients opened up. Founders reached out to say thank you. For once, the curtain was being pulled back, and instead of chaos, there was clarity. I thought we were done with surprises. Until Sam came into my office holding a small, glossy envelope. This came by courier, she said. No return name, just your name. I opened it. Inside was a single card, embossed, elegant. Try small caker done with supposidium. Try small caker done with. Try small caker done with. Try small cossid. Try small cossi done with. Null cossi done with bok spaviantro was small. Try small cakurium. It was unsigned. But I knew that handwriting. Trina. Harper came in behind me, read the card, and didn't blink. She's admitting defeat. But she's not done. Then we stay ready. No, we stay better. The following month, we hired 3 new strategists. We expanded our internship program. We signed a global partnership with a sustainable packaging company. We launched 2 sister ventures, one in design, one in influencer marketing. And when our annual review hit, the headline was simple. Nimes Trask and Field redefines what brand power looks like. Not Nimes Trouble builds. Ty redefines Times Tarias. Sometimes I wonder if Trina ever looks back. If she thinks about the moment she hit send on those forged termination emails. If she regrets it. Or if she truly believed she could win that way. Maybe she still does. But it doesn't matter. Because I stopped playing her game a long time ago. This isn't about revenge anymore. It's about asterisk resonance. It's about impact. It's about waking up every day and knowing that what we built didn't just survive a storm, it became the reason people weather theirs. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Not for the betrayal, but for the fire it gave me. And the family I found in the ashes. You learn a lot about yourself when you stop reacting. Not fighting. Not retaliating. Just existing in your purpose, regardless of the noise around you. I wasn't used to that. For so long, everything I did, every pitch, every campaign, every midnight rewrite, had been some form of resistance, a reaction, a fight against being underestimated, outmaneuvered, or flat-out stolen from. But now, the noise was still there, but it didn't touch me anymore. Not because I'd tuned it out, because I'd outgrown it. The company felt different now. We weren't a scrappy survival outfit anymore. We had depth, bench strength, standards. And with that came a new kind of pressure. Responsibility. We weren't just being watched by clients. We were being emulated. Referenced. Startups were copying our campaign structure. Influencer agencies were quoting Harper's press strategy in their sales decks. One firm even posted a word-for-word lift of our Brand Truth initiative. Sam brought it to me, fuming. They didn't even change the verbs. Harper was calm. Let them try. They're missing the point. She was right. Copying tactics was easy. Copying ethos? Impossible. The biggest surprise came in the form of a phone call I never expected to take. I was in the office alone that night. Everyone else had gone home. I'd stayed late, reading through a pitch deck from a biodegradable fragrance capsule company out of Lisbon. It was raw but promising. My cell rang. Blocked number. I answered out of instinct. Linnea Trask. There was a pause. Then, I didn't know who else to call. Trina. I froze. I thought we were past this. I'm not asking for anything, just, can we talk, please? The tone was off, not clipped, not smug. It wasn't the voice of someone who wanted to manipulate. It was the voice of someone unraveling. I exhaled, closed my laptop. 5 minutes. That's all you get. We met the next morning. Neutral ground, a small cafe 2 neighborhoods away. I arrived early. She walked in exactly on time. Trina looked fragile. Not physically, she was still polished, still in heels, still with the subtle gold watch and the flawless contour. But her eyes were dull. Her smile didn't reach. Her voice was tired. You won, she said, sitting down. I know you know that. I just wanted to say it. Out loud. I didn't speak, she continued. Viridian collapsed last week. My investor pulled out. Said there was too much smoke around me. Too much bad blood. I sipped my coffee. Still didn't speak. I deserved it, she said. I raised an eyebrow. Is this the part where you ask for a job? She actually laughed, but there was no humor in it. No, God, no, I wouldn't insult you like that. I needed someone to hear me say I was wrong, that I screwed it up, all of it. I studied her, and for the first time, I didn't see an enemy. I saw a woman who'd bet everything on shortcuts, and lost. We didn't hug, we didn't cry, we didn't make peace. But when she left, she turned back and said, You're not like me, and that's a good thing. Then she was gone. The moment stayed with me, not because I forgave her, but because I didn't need her to lose anymore. That part of the story was over. Back at the office, we launched a new initiative. Nice Stock Founders First. It was Sam's idea. She wanted to create a pre-agency model for solo founders who weren't ready for full-service branding but needed guidance. They always get priced out, she said, so they try to do it alone and burn out before they even start. So we built a program, modular, digital, scalable. It offered short-term mentorship, playbook templates, and real-time strategy feedback, all under a pay-what-you-can model. Within the first month, we had over 200 signups. Some turned into clients. Some didn't. But all of them felt seen. That was the win. Meanwhile, Harper launched our first leadership summit. It wasn't just about PR. It was about ethics, impact, longevity. She curated panels with founders who had nearly quit, campaigns that failed first, brands that pivoted hard and came back stronger. If we only ever show the highlight reel, she said, we train a generation to think failure is shameful. The event sold out in 3 days. We streamed it to 19 countries. And that was when something shifted. We weren't just building brands anymore. We were shaping a culture. At the end of the summit, I stood at the back of the main room. Danny found me. She looked older now, not in a tired way, in a rooted way. Grounded. You okay? She asked. Yeah, just watching. Feels big, doesn't it? It is big. We stood in silence for a moment. You think we'll ever go back to being small? She asked. I smiled. I hope not, but I hope we never forget how we started. She nodded. And then, my favorite part, she just let the moment be. No selfies, no quotes, no need to immortalize it. Just present. Just real. Hiksh. 6 months later, we bought a building. Trask & Field had outgrown its leased space. Harper found the property, Emily negotiated it. Sam designed the layout. It wasn't flashy, it wasn't cold. It was human. Sunlight, soft wood, quiet corners. Rooms for crying, rooms for dancing, rooms for breathing. Our staff called it the greenhouse, because everything grew there. including us. One day, I found a note in the kitchen. It was on a sticky pad, half curled from the humidity. Asterisk, I used to be afraid of failing here. Now I'm afraid of leaving. Thank you for building a place that feels like a heart with a doorbell. Asterisk. No name, no initials. I stuck it on my wall, right next to the plaque Harper gave me, right above my desk, where I could see it every day. The media kept calling. They wanted interviews, case studies, deep dives. We said yes to some, but mostly we kept our heads down, not because we were hiding, but because we didn't need validation anymore. The work was enough. The way we worked was enough. And for the first time in years, I didn't need to be seen to believe in myself. I just needed to keep showing up. So I did. Every single day. This story took us a long time. If you like it, subscribe. Now back to the story. By the time spring rolled in, we were no longer a secret. The phrase kept showing up in newsletters and roundups. Trask and Field is building something different. At first, it felt surreal. We weren't trying to be different. We just refused to play dirty. But somehow, that had become radical. Sam came into my office with a rare look of mischief. You're on a list. I looked up from my laptop. Which kind? She tossed a glossy magazine onto my desk. Fortune 50, Founders Changing the Branding Game. There I was, page 12, black and white photo. The article title, Grace in the Grit, How Linnea Trask Quietly Redefined Resilience. I laughed out loud. Grace, have they heard me on a bad pitch day? Sam shrugged. You made the list. Own it. I tucked the magazine into my drawer, didn't tell anyone else. Some things didn't need a spotlight. That week, we signed 2 major contracts. One with an eco-tech company transitioning into the luxury wellness market. The other with a heritage fragrance label that wanted a modern relaunch after 30 years of silence. Harper called it our polarity phase. High-tech meets high soul, she said. 1 foot in the future, 1 hand on the past. The duality worked. The press called it bold. Clients called it magic. We just called it Tuesday. Then came the moment that changed everything, again. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even loud. It was an email from someone named Esther Gray. I didn't recognize the name. The subject line, Can I tell you a story? The body. Linnea. Service. I run a non-profit branding lab for underserved entrepreneurs in Edinburgh. One of our clients is a woman who built a skincare line while recovering from domestic abuse. She used to sleep in her car. Now she's got a formulation partner, a proof of concept, and a dream. She said she watched your summit last year and rewrote her pitch deck the next day. She said it was the first time she believed she could win without lying. We're a small team, no budget for full-scale agency support. But we wondered, do you ever take on mentorship brands? If not, we understand. Just thought we'd ask. Ta wondered, crayons. Noster Gray. Ta wondered, crayons. I forwarded it to Harper. She replied with a 1-line message. If you say no, I'll mentor her myself. So we said yes. Her name was JL. She was 34, with scars she didn't hide, and a voice like sandpaper and sunlight. She didn't pitch. She testified. I made these products because the shelters had nothing that didn't burn, she said during our intro call. I wanted to make healing feel gentle, not clinical. We helped her rename her brand, reshoot her product photography, rebuild her pitch. She launched 4 months later. Sold out in 2 weeks. The press called her the accidental alchemist. We called her family. Taking Jael on opened the floodgates. We started a formal mentorship tier. Low cost, high touch, high trust. For every major campaign we ran, we took on 1 mentorship brand. Danny oversaw the intake. Sam built the back end. Harper vetted the models. We had no plan to scale it. We just wanted to be human. Months passed. Wins piled up. And then, quietly, the past knocked again. It started with a phone call from an unknown number. Hello? Is this Linnea Trask? Yes, who's this? My name is Colleen Marston. I'm the Director of Compliance for the National Brand Equity Commission. My stomach dropped. We've received a formal complaint alleging that your agency engaged in non-competitive practices during the Berlin launch. Excuse me? I'm not saying the allegations are founded, but due diligence requires we interview your team. She was calm, professional, and clearly uncomfortable. I scheduled a meeting. Then I called Harper. She arrived 15 minutes later with a dossier already printed. It's a weaponized complaint, she said, but it's weak. All we have to do is stay factual. Do you think it's Trina again? Maybe, but it might not be. We're visible now. That makes us vulnerable. The interview was clinical. They asked for documents, client rosters, timelines. We handed everything over. 3 weeks passed. Then came the verdict. No violation, full clearance, no further action. It was a whisper of relief, but it reminded us of something crucial. Success didn't mean safety. It meant being ready. Always. So we fortified. Rewrote our compliance policies. Brought in an ethics consultant. Created a transparency dashboard visible to all clients. Some said it was overkill. We said it was leadership. One night, Harper and I stayed late. The office was dark except for the glow of her desk lamp. Do you ever miss it? I asked. She looked up. Miss what? The smaller days. The simpler ones. She thought about it. I miss the quiet wins, not the quiet losses. I nodded. I miss knowing everyone's middle name. She laughed softly. We can start a Slack thread. That's not the same. No, she said, but it's still ours. We hit our 5th anniversary the next month. 5 years of rebuilding, reinventing, rising. We held a small event. Not for press. For us. No lights, no speeches. Just a long table, candles, and stories. People shared moments, memories, fears. Giles stood up at the end and raised a glass. To the women who proved the best revenge is not needing any. We cheered. Then we danced. And when I looked around that room, I saw something I'd never thought I'd see. A legacy. Not carved in marble, but etched in people. In voices. In faith. And that, I realized, was the real win. Not the clients. Not the campaigns. But the courage to build something that would matter long after we were gone. Something rooted. Something real. Something true. That night, I opened the drawer where I kept the plaque. I read it again. Plashen Cerberus talks, dub woman who made ashes look like the starting line. Then I pulled out a pen, and beneath it, I wrote something new. And who never stopped running. By the 6th year, we stopped introducing ourselves. We didn't have to. Every major agency knew who we were. Every client in the luxury lifestyle hybrid market had heard of us. And every founder worth their salt had bookmarked our brand truth page like a lighthouse on a rocky coast. But we never forgot what got us there. Not the press. Not the features. Not the viral reels. People. We kept investing in the ones who stuck by us when we had nothing but grit and an inbox full of forged terminations. Sam got promoted to COO. Harper became partner. Dani? She launched our first global founder lab and landed on Forbes 30 Under 30 for redefining early-stage mentorship. It felt like winning without playing anyone else's game. But growth brings ghosts. And one of them had my name. It started innocently enough. A junior comms associate flagged a comment on one of our campaign videos. It was buried under 1,000 likes, but the wording jumped out at her. Times asterisk. This format looks familiar. Almost like something we built at Foresight PR back in the day. Funny how things travel. Asterisk. Foresight. I hadn't heard that name in years. Not since I was 26, freelancing for the firm that nearly ate me alive. Foresight PR was my first contract after university. I was desperate, idealistic, and wildly underpaid. But I learned fast, built faster, and made enemies without realizing it. Mostly because I didn't know how to be small yet. The comment came from someone named Jules Abram. I clicked the profile, it was locked, no photo. But the name? It wasn't real. I knew because I used to sign Jules's invoices. He was one of the founders who ghosted us in 2017 after siphoning our entire pitch deck to sell a watered-down version of our launch strategy. Foresight folded 6 months later, burned bridges and unpaid invoices. But apparently, Jules wasn't done. The next day, Harper walked into my office with a tight expression. "You're not going to like this. Try me. Jules Abram is back." She dropped a portfolio binder onto my desk. It was clean, sharp, expensive. The new brand? Insight Union. "Please tell me this is a parody." "Worse," Harper said. "They're real. They just landed a soft acquisition with Huron Collective." Quote, Huron Collective was the West Coast VC darling of the moment. "You think they're targeting us?" "Not yet," Harper said, "but they're watching. They're citing our language, referencing our community-first ethics. They're trying to reverse engineer our story arc. That's a losing game. Only if people know what to compare it to." And that was the problem. Most people didn't know our full story. They knew the wins, the turnarounds, the headlines, but they didn't know the foundation. So we made a decision. We went public. Not stock market public. Times transparency public. We launched a timeline. The full Trask and Field story. From day zero. From the first email that got hacked to the day JL launched her first full collection. We posted photos, audio clips, Slack threads, real internal memos from the days we thought we'd fold. It wasn't pretty. It was honest. It caught fire. Founders reshared it. Designers reposted it. Even competitors quietly applauded it. Harper called it our most important campaign. Not because it converted, but because it reminded us why we started. Jules didn't go away. He pivoted. Started a content series called Clarity Sessions, where he discussed ethical branding, coincidentally echoing everything we'd been saying for 3 years. But he didn't realize something crucial. You can copy language. You can't copy conviction. Our clients stayed. Our founders thrived. And Insight Union, they plateaued. Turns out, when your mission is imitation, your ceiling is always someone else's floor. Around that time, Sam brought a new proposal to my desk. "We've outgrown our project tracker," she said. "I want to build our own." Like software. Like an ecosystem. She mapped it out. A tool built for founders who couldn't afford custom agency platforms. A dashboard that merged campaign flow, impact tracking, and brand ethics markers. User-friendly. Transparent. Modular. She called it asterisk, asterisk, asterisk pulse, asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Danny lit up. Harper ran a focus group. Emily got a beta list in less than a week. 6 months later, we launched it. And everything changed. Pulse wasn't just a tool. It was a shift. A new standard for what ethical marketing infrastructure could look like. Press called it disruptive. Founders called it freedom. And one particularly salty agency called it a glorified Trello clone with a conscience. We printed that on mugs. Sold out in 2 days. Then came the keynote. Harper had been invited to speak at the Global Strategy Forum in Milan. Topic: The future of brand ethics in a post-hype world. She wrote it alone, didn't show it to anyone. When she delivered it, the room went still. She didn't quote trends. She quoted failure. Showed real campaign missteps. Showed how we learned. How we rewrote internal policies after JL's product recall. How we missed a cultural nuance in an overseas pitch and made it right. Her closing line? Ethics aren't the icing, they're the oven. The crowd rose to their feet. Even I clapped so hard my hands stung. She came back with 50 new consulting requests in her inbox. But with scale came weight. I started losing sleep again. Not from fear, from decision fatigue. Every move mattered. Every hire shaped culture. Every silence was a message. One night, I stayed late, pacing, wondering. Then Sam walked in. Want to talk? I hesitated, then nodded. We sat. I told her the truth, that I was scared we'd go so big we'd forget what we were. She listened, then said, "You didn't build this alone, and it won't die if you take a breath. That's the legacy. You built something that doesn't need you to hover over every detail. You built a tile.we, asterisk." I cried. Not out of exhaustion. Out of relief. The next day, I gave every department head one ask. If I disappeared tomorrow, what would you want to protect most about this place? The answers came back in sticky notes, texts, emails, voicemails. And they all said the same thing in different ways. Nanko, we protect the people. That was enough. More than enough. Year 7 ended with a retreat. This time in the countryside. No agendas, just space. We brought everyone. The janitor, the interns, the legal team, the barista who made our office lattes. One night, we sat under the stars. Denny passed out notebooks. Write one sentence, she said, about what this place healed in you. I hesitated. Then wrote, "It healed the part of me that thought I had to do it alone. I didn't share it aloud. Didn't need to. I'd already said it, in every hire, every policy, every product. This wasn't just my company anymore. It was a living, breathing proof that healing can scale, that community can convert, that justice can look like open doors and unflinching clarity. We didn't win because we fought back. We won because we moved forward. And we never forgot where we started. Not in spite of the ashes, but because of them. You can always tell when a company's pretending to be alive. They start talking louder but saying less. They flood your feed with buzzwords instead of clarity. And they treat their people like assets instead of humans. We knew what that looked like. Because we'd seen it up close, survived it, watched it collapse. That's why in year 8, we didn't just grow. We matured. Bantay. It started with an email from a founder named Quinn Monroe. She wasn't famous. She wasn't even funded. She ran a 3-person startup called Terra, a biodegradable, refillable household cleaner line with a quiet cult following on the West Coast. Her subject line, "Can I keep my soul and still scale?" I opened it. Her first line, "I know what I built matters, but I don't know how to make it louder without selling pieces of myself to the loudest bidder." We set up a call. She showed up raw, honest, worried. "They're offering me money," she said, "but they want a full pivot, no more ethics, just margins." Harper and I looked at each other. "Walk away," I said. Quinn blinked. "But what if it's my only shot?" "Then you wait for a better one, or you build your own." Silence. Then, "Would you help me do that?" Harper leaned forward. "If you're willing to work, not perform." Quinn said yes. And that was how we launched our Mother Founder Residency. The program wasn't public. It wasn't on our site. No forms, no fees. Just trust. Founders we believed in, brands that were too early for press but too important to ignore. We housed them in the greenhouse. Gave them desks, mentorship, brand support, and a custom launch map. The rule? Don't sell your ethics, ever. Quinn's launch went live 6 months later. Terra hit $1 million in sales within 60 days. But more than that, She did it Turtway. Dalim. We brought in 3 more residents. A food scientist building nutrient-preserving packaging. A postpartum doula launching a maternal health platform. A second-generation refugee reimagining diaspora-based wellness rituals. They weren't flashy. They were foundational. And when they won, we didn't take credit. We just kept the door open behind them. But not everyone loved it. 2 months into the residency, we got a letter. A firm called North Apex Strategies was filing a complaint with the European Commission, alleging we were running an unregulated incubator and violating competition clauses. Harper read the letter aloud. Danny rolled her eyes. They can't stand that we're giving away what they gatekeep. Emily did the legal homework. They don't have standing. And they know it. This is a scare tactic. We responded with a formal letter and a public blog post outlining our structure, ethics, and founder code of conduct. The community rallied behind us. North Apex folded the complaint. But the message was clear. We weren't just disrupting. We were turning, dismantling. And that scared people. So we leaned in. Sam proposed a new vertical, NIBRA Brand Ethics Audits. It would be a full-scale assessment tool for brands to evaluate not just their messaging, but their internal practices. Hiring, inclusivity, accessibility, language, tone, supply chain. It was bold, risky, but necessary. We beta tested it with 5 long-term clients. They all opted to go public with their results. It became a movement. #AuditMe trended. Other firms scrambled to build clones. But again, you can't replicate ethos. You can only live it. Batucked. That's when the award invitations started flooding in. Not just for campaigns. For impact. Sam was nominated for Ethical Business Leader of the Year. Harper got tapped to co-author a book on conscious scale. Even Danny got a documentary inquiry. I told them all to go for it. They all asked me why I didn't enter anything myself. I shrugged. Because I already know what I built. I don't need a trophy to prove it. But privately? There was something shifting in me. Not restlessness. Not exhaustion. Just a top hell. Nori Balsoi space. The kind that opens when a part of you starts to whisper, "What now?" Nori Balsoi space. Nori Balsoi space. Nori Balsois. What next? Top hell a top hell. Nori Balsoi space. What answer? So I did the only thing that had ever brought me clarity. I listened. I started blocking off Thursdays. No calls, no meetings, no screens. Just walks, reading, long coffees, conversations. At first, it felt indulgent. Then essential. And slowly, I started hearing a new question. Who are you when you're not building? I didn't know, so I went looking. One Thursday afternoon, I visited a local bookstore and stumbled across a book club discussing failure. I listened for 20 minutes. Then someone turned to me and said, "What was your biggest one?" Without thinking, I said, believing that revenge was the same thing as healing. They didn't gasp, or nod, or interrupt. They just let it be. That was the moment I realized. I had nothing to prove anymore. To anyone. Not even to myself. That weekend, I called Harper. "What would you say if I step back a little?" She didn't hesitate. "I'd say it's about time. You're not surprised? You've been leading with everything but your face for a year. You built something that doesn't collapse without you. That's the point. I'm not leaving. I know. You're just finally letting the tree grow without standing on the roots." So I made it official. Moved into a chairwoman role. Gave Harper full operational lead. Sam took over vision strategy. Danny ran founder expansion. And me? I started writing. Not for press. For peace. Essays, stories, letters. I even started mentoring again. but this time without an outcome. Just presence. One day, I was at the greenhouse reading when Jael walked in. She hadn't changed. Still raw, still radiant. She sat next to me. "Do you miss it?" I smiled. Parts. But not the version where I had to prove I deserved to be in the room. "You were the room." "We all were. That's the secret." She nodded. "I'm launching a new line. Tell me everything." And she did. Not because I was her mentor, but because we were family now. The seasons turned. The world kept shifting. But inside our halls, something stayed steady. The belief that honesty scales, that people matter, that revenge is too small a goal for women like us, and that maybe, just maybe, healing, when nurtured, can outlast everything built on noise. We never wrote a manifesto. We didn't need to. We lived it. And every founder who passed through our doors, they carried it forward. Not because we told them to, but because they knew. Legacy isn't what you leave behind. It's what you awaken in others. And we were just getting started. Legacy doesn't whisper. It echoes. Not just through headlines or anniversaries, but through the quiet decisions, the choices made when no one's watching. And at Trask and Field, those quiet decisions had begun to stack into something unmistakable. Weight. Not a burden, a responsibility. By our 9th year, we had something more sacred than reputation. We had trust. And people were guarding it like a shared secret. The greenhouse had become more than a headquarters. It was a living archive of belief. Our walls bore scuff marks from founder demos. Post-it notes of affirmation were still stuck behind door hinges from retreats 2 years prior. There were corners in the building where you could feel something had happened, an insight, a moment, a hard-earned breath. It was on a Wednesday morning in that very place that everything shifted again. It started with a message from Sam. "Nimes, need 01 a.m. Need you in the vault room. Quietly." The vault room wasn't literal. It was where we stored our non-disclosure archives, protected client prototypes, and internal research, the backbone of every major pitch we'd built in the last 4 years. When I got there, Sam, Donnie, and Harper were already inside. All 3 looked grim. "What happened?" Harper pointed at the screen. It was an internal document, our predictive brand matrix tool, the exact model we used to identify cross-sector potential for new launches. But the problem was, this version wasn't ours. It was on the website of another agency. Time is exact structure. Time same color coding. Knives identical quadrant language. Even the file name was similar. Nimes TF Matrix-5.0 Timers. Only their name? Deltra Strategies. "Is this a joke?" I whispered. Danny shook her head. "I traced the metadata. It's ours. They copied it from one of our shared founder portals. From a brand we mentored last year. The founder hadn't meant to betray us. They'd just passed the deck along to a potential investor who had ties to Deltra. And now? It was out in the wild. We can file, Sam said. We have every legal angle. But it'll get messy." Harper folded her arms. "Or we go the other route." "What route is that?" "Make it obsolete. Build something better, again." We did both. The legal route was silent, slow, and strategic. We sent a cease and desist. Our lawyers followed up with a documentation request. Deltra didn't respond. But suddenly, the tool vanished from their site, quietly, without an update. They hoped we'd stop there. We didn't. Mailing. Sam led the charge on the rebuild. We renamed the tool NOPDTARSIAZESK, Adaptive Resonance Keying. More than a matrix now. It became a real-time predictive model powered by ethical sourcing patterns, emerging trend velocity, and founder behavioral alignment. Not fluff. Function. We didn't just improve it. We rebuilt the philosophy, launched it as a beta to our residency founders. The impact was immediate. Retention rates climbed. Pitch acceptance doubled. Founders called it "Time's a compass that doesn't lie." We called it our line in the sand. Not against theft, against stagnation. In the middle of all this, I got a letter. An actual letter. From Trina. No fanfare, no threats, no return address. Just one sheet of paper. No asterisk. "I watched what you've built. You're right. I couldn't have done it. And I'm glad you did. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I didn't know what to feel. Pity? Closure? Nothing?" I read it again, then tucked it into my drawer. Let it sit with the rest of the past. Around that time, Danny pitched an idea we didn't see coming. What if we created a transition pathway for founders? You mean exit strategy consulting? No, not for investors, for the founders. No one teaches them how to leave something they love, how to step away without guilt. Sam sat back. "That's actually brilliant." Harper nodded. "We've seen the collapse that happens when founders cling too long. Let's rewrite the manual." We called it Time's Gentle Exit. It was a 4-phase coaching and brand deceleration strategy built to honor the emotional weight of stepping back. The response? Overwhelming. Founders wrote us tearful thank you notes. One said, "You let me say goodbye without shame." It wasn't our most profitable initiative, but it might have been the most needed. Year 9 became about things nobody talked about. Quiet losses. Private pivots. Founders who failed but refused to be defined by it. And in telling those stories, we gave people something they didn't know they craved. Permission. Permission to change. To pause. To end. To start again. That was the real legacy. Not endless growth, but sustainable honesty. One night, we hosted a panel called Napasaman Kamtal, the Beautiful Fold. Founders who'd shut down their companies, or walked away, or changed direction. No shame, just story. The room was packed. One founder cried. Another said, "I thought I was the only one who failed with grace." Someone else whispered, "I didn't know quitting could be beautiful." Afterward, we stood in a circle. Danny hugged me. "This is the work." She was right. The real work wasn't just about spotlighting wins. It was about creating a space for the whole truth. And that meant showing the parts that never made the sizzle reel. That spring, Pulse hit its 1M user milestone. We launched a nonprofit arm, expanded our mentorship to refugee founders across 3 continents, created an entire library of open-source branding tools, not behind a paywall, but behind a trust wall. Just ask. And mean it. We gave access freely. People respected it. Because when you treat people like they're already worthy, they rise. At the end of year 9, we held an internal gathering. No client decks, no projections. Just a circle. And one prompt. What did you unlearn this year? My answer? I unlearned the myth that power has to look loud. Harper said, "Knew I unlearned urgency as a proxy for importance." Sam said, "I unlearned the idea that kindness is weakness." And Donnie, ever the truth teller, "I unlearned the habit of shrinking to stay invited." We sat with those truths. Let them marinate. Then we toasted. To unlearning, to rewriting, to healing, together. Legacy doesn't always show up in numbers. Sometimes it shows up in the silence between applause, in the pause after a founder breathes for the first time without fear, in the hands that reach back after climbing. That's what we built. Not just a company, a compass. And we weren't done pointing north. Not even close. In our 10th year, the industry changed, but not because of disruption, or some flashy IPO, or a scandal that shook a market. It changed because for the first time, a room full of founders sat in a circle, put down their pitch decks, and asked a better question. What would our brand look like if it wasn't trying to prove anything? That question echoed across every call, every launch, every late-night copy edit. And the answers weren't uniform. They were raw, real, liberating. It was Danny who asked it first. We were at the second annual Twind My Brand Truth Summit, held in a converted observatory just outside of Amsterdam. The venue smelled like cedar and early rain, and the atrium was ringed with handwritten brand manifestos from every founder in our mentorship cohort. During one session on ethical scaling, a panelist tried to trap her in a classic growth question. How do you stay competitive when your competitors drop their rates and flood your channels? Dani didn't flinch. She smiled, leaned into the mic, and asked, "Why are we still letting capitalism define our imagination?" The room went quiet. Then someone clapped. Then someone stood. And then the whole room did. I stood at the back, silent, shaken. Not by surprise, but by the realization. She wasn't the intern anymore. She was the new voice of everything I had once tried to scream but never had the language for. Later that night, Danny and I walked the perimeter garden in our coats. "You're becoming a movement," I told her. "No, we are," she said. "I'm just the one willing to say the scary part out loud. You weren't always, because I was learning. From you, from all of you." We paused by the greenhouse windows, fogged over by warm light and late laughter. "I used to think you were a shield," she said, "but you're not. You're a door." I didn't reply, because my throat tightened too much to answer. Back home, we made 3 major shifts. First, we flattened the leadership structure. No more title ladders. We restructured around teams, missions, and accountability webs, not hierarchies. Second, we introduced founder sabbaticals. Every founder working with us on a full build-out got an opt-in rest window during their campaign cycle. No punishment. No backsliding, just time to breathe. Third, we went analog. 1 day per week, no screens. Internal day, no emails, no calls, just tactile work. Sketchbooks, Post-its, walk-and-talks, voice memos. Some called it regressive. Our creativity skyrocketed. In February, we got a request from a founder named Zara, who had been following us since the original Brand Truth post. She ran a grief ritual business, handmade journals, guided meditations, loss retreats. She wrote, "Every branding firm told me I needed to sanitize, that grief was too soft, too feminine, too sad. But then I read your work, and I thought, maybe I don't have to be so palatable." Harper read the message twice, then said, "Bring her in." Zara didn't pitch. She witnessed. Our entire team signed on. That project became one of our most personal. Every deliverable passed through emotional checks. Every shoot day started with silence. Every line of copy was written like a eulogy. And when Zara launched, she didn't just sell out. She received over 300 letters from strangers who said, "This made me feel seen in the middle of my loss." Around the same time, Pulse rolled out its 4th version. The ethics dashboard now included burnout markers. Not just project deadlines and deliverables, but personal wellness check-ins, digital fatigue counters, prompted reflection. We called it the whole person layer. Some agencies mocked us. One headline read, "Has branding gone too soft?" We printed that on t-shirts, gave them to our team. They wore them to every client meeting for a month. By late spring, we were at a crossroads. We'd grown every quarter, outperformed our own projections, launched a podcast, sold out our print journal, and then Sam came into my office with a look I hadn't seen in years. "I need to ask you something huge." "Okay." She took a breath. "What if we became the first certified trauma-informed branding firm in the world?" I blinked. "That's enormous." but necessary. She showed me the numbers. 70% of our clients had some trauma history, personal or professional, that directly impacted their brand-building journey. We weren't trained to hold that, and pretending we could was unethical. Harper joined the conversation. Danny followed. Within days, we had a plan. Partner with licensed therapists. Train all leadership and strategist staff. Update our internal language guides. We didn't make a splashy announcement. We just did the work. And a year later, we were certified. The first. The blueprint. Not a flex. A responsibility. And then, at our 10-year mark, we threw a party. Not a gala. A thank you. We invited every founder we'd ever worked with. Every employee, past and present. The venue? An old printing press warehouse, converted into a space full of light and echo. There was a wall of notes, thank yous, reflections, moments. There were no name tags, no stage, no mics, just food, music, and open hands. At one point, Zahra found me by the mural. "Did you ever think you'd make it 10 years?" she asked. I smiled. "No, I thought I'd be lucky to make it past the first sabotage." She nodded. "But you didn't rebuild alone." "No, I rebuilt Stracketh with." Before the night ended, someone asked if I'd say something. I stood in the center of the floor. The music quieted. I said, 10 years ago, my cousin stole my client list and tried to end me, and I thought the only way to respond was to fight. But I learned something else, that the best revenge is not reclaiming what was taken. It's building something so rooted in truth, it can't be stolen. This company is not mine anymore, it's ours, and every single person here has shaped it, protected it, grown it. So if you're here tonight, you're part of that. Not because you followed a story, but because you became mine anymore. No one clapped. Not right away. They just stood there, holding it, letting it sink. And then someone whispered, "Amen." Later that night, Harper found me near the loading docks. "You good?" Quote, "Yeah, just watching." She nodded, then held out a small velvet box. We all chipped in. I opened it. Inside, a simple gold bracelet. Engraved, "Nos legacy isn't the destination, it's the trailhead." I cried. Not because it was beautiful, but because they got it. All of it. And after 10 years, I finally felt like I didn't need to carry the whole thing alone. Because I wasn't. Not anymore. The 11th year wasn't about reinvention. It was about asterisk reaffirmation. We weren't chasing growth for its own sake anymore. We weren't proving a point. We weren't fighting ghosts in the hallway. We were refining, holding, sharpening the tools that had once saved us, now used to save others. And it started with one word that had never shown up in our decks before. Nime stewardship. Harper introduced it at our Q1 offsite. We were all sitting cross-legged on floor cushions in a quiet retreat space in northern Scotland, windows fogged from early spring. She stood at the front of the room with a single slide. Asterisk, we're not founders anymore. We're stewards. What does that mean to you? Asterisk. Silence. Then Sam said, it means protecting something that doesn't belong to me, but I care for it like it does. Danny added, it means planting things I might never see bloom. I wrote in my notebook. It means letting go without losing presence. That quarter, we paused all outbound growth campaigns. No new clients unless they came to us through referrals or community. Instead, we launched Cody Laud's The Stewardship Cohort Asterisk, a curated program for second-stage founders facing plateau or quiet crisis. Not early-stage energy. Not corporate polish. Founders in the middle. Tired, seasoned, burned out from success. We accepted 10. The ask was clear. Show up messy, we'll meet you there. The stories that emerged reshaped our internal philosophy. One founder had scaled too fast and didn't recognize her own product line. Another confessed he hadn't taken a vacation in 6 years and didn't know his child's favorite color. One woman quietly admitted, "I miss when I was proud of my own brand." We didn't fix them. We listened. And slowly, gently, they began to build again. Not higher. Nice deeper series nice dinos. Meanwhile, Pulse 5.0 rolled out its most requested feature. Sucker series nice dinos, sucker series dinos. Nice dinos, sucker series. Sucker series dinos. Not metrics. Moments. Users could now log reflections like, times felt dread during pitch meeting. Times lost excitement when reviewing packaging. Asterisk avoiding email from new investor. The dashboard tracked patterns. Not for surveillance. For self-awareness. The goal? Wholeness. It became our most praised update to date. During that time, I was invited to give a lecture at a university. Branding students. I arrived expecting to talk about strategy. But one girl raised her hand early and asked, "How do you stay soft in a world that tells you sharp is safer?" I didn't answer right away, because no one had asked me that in years. So I said I stopped trying to be safe and started trying to be true soy sauce. Afterward, she waited in the hallway. I started my own line, not big, just candles and balm. My uncle said I'd never last without hard edges. I smiled. Let them say that, and let them be wrong. She sent me a thank you note 2 weeks later, with a tin of lavender balm. I still keep it in my drawer. Back at Trask and Field, we introduced a new internal metric, times some impact frequency. It wasn't about viral reach. It was about how often we made someone feel seen. We added a private feedback portal for clients to submit anonymous reflections. Times, I cried reading this copy draft. Times, your strategist asked how I felt, not just what I wanted. No one's ever done that. Times, I didn't realize I could love a logo this much. We posted these reflections on a corkboard in our kitchen. It filled faster than we expected. In the fall, Emily came to us with a proposal. Let's take Brand Truth global, not a tour, a shared platform. She outlined a multilingual storytelling archive featuring founder voices from 6 continents. Each one would narrate their journey, not with polish, but with pause. Stumbles, questions, the moment they almost gave up. We called it Condor Brand Truth, human volume, not Amanda Braff. We didn't curate for wins. We curated for clarity. The voices came in like rain. Stories of rejection, of reinvention, of rage, of rest. It became our most downloaded content series ever. Somewhere in that flurry, we hit a number I'd never said out loud. $100 million in collective client impact. Not revenue. Times impact. Sales generated, donated, redistributed, reinvented. We almost didn't share it. But Donnie reminded us, sometimes naming the number honors the effort. So we did. With one slide, times $100 million of proof that kindness converts. Around December, I received a message on our founder portal. Just one sentence. Times asterisk. Do you still remember what it felt like to be broken and trying to write your first client email again? Asterisk. I did. Every word, every breath, every pause between sentences when I wasn't sure if I had anything worth saying anymore. So I replied, times asterisk, yes. And that memory still guides how I lead. You're not behind, you're just healing. And healing takes time. Come sit with us when you're ready. Asterisk. They never responded. But I think about them often. And I hope they made it. That winter, we closed the year not with projections, but with poems. We asked every team member to write one stanza about what the year meant to them. We turned it into a zine. Printed 50 copies. bound them by hand. No one outside the company ever saw it. It was for us to remember, to stay rooted, to remain soft in a world that tells you hard is safer. And as I closed the final page, I wrote one more line. Times asterisk. The best thing we ever built wasn't a brand. It was a place where people could stop pretending. Asterisk. And for me, that was enough. More than enough. Because the legacy wasn't just continuing. It was Feynman more becoming. The 12th year began with a thunderstorm and a quote. Harper and I were on a rooftop in Lisbon, the first stop of our Quiet Influence listening tour. Rain rolled in too fast to escape. So we stood there, soaked and laughing, watching lightning split the clouds like divine punctuation. And then she said it. We're not trying to scale a brand anymore, Linnea. We're calibrating a culture. I didn't respond. I just held on to those words. Because something in me knew they were truer than strategy, stronger than the numbers, and far bigger than anything we had put on a pitch deck in over a decade. That year, we stopped measuring reach. We started measuring resonance. And everything changed. The Quiet Influence Tour wasn't about launches. It was about asterisk listening. Stalkers Frowls. We picked 9 cities. Not capitals, not hotspots. We went to places people overlooked. Ghent, Oaxaca, Wellington, Thessaloniki. In each city, we found local founders, micro-brand builders, who hadn't scaled, hadn't gone viral, hadn't raised rounds. They were building slowly, honestly, thoughtfully. And they had lessons we needed. A textile artist in Porto told us, "Growth scares me. I like knowing every customer's name." A community grocer in Sheffield said, "My goal isn't expansion, it's longevity." Quote, a black herbalist in Atlanta whispered, "The land taught me patience. Capitalism keeps trying to rush me." We sat with those stories, took notes, and then we brought the insights back to London. We created a new framework. Struck the slowness index. It measured not just how fast a brand moved, but how well it listened to itself. Signs of alignment. Signs of misalignment. Indicators that urgency was masking fear. Markers of rushed identity. The result? Campaigns slowed down. But conversions went up. Retention tripled. Client wellness markers improved. We started sharing the index in every deck. And for the first time in years, we saw relief in our clients' eyes instead of pressure. Halfway through the year, Sam proposed something that sounded impossible. What if we took a whole month off? The entire company, shut it down. No campaigns, no press. I blinked. That's not a sabbatical. That's a hibernation. Exactly. Let the brand rest. Let Tress rest. Harper chimed in. We can call it a brand winter. Donnie, that sounds poetic and slightly terrifying. We voted. It passed unanimously. That August, we shut everything down. 4 full weeks. No posts, no emails, no activations, no updates. The only thing live on our site was a message. Twice asterisk, we're resting. Back soon. May you find stillness too. Asterisk. The response was not what we expected. Founders emailed us to say thank you. Clients cried on Zoom the week before shutdown. One journalist wrote, asterisk, Trask and Field just gave the entire industry permission to exhale. We didn't go viral. We went deep. I spent my brand winter in the Scottish Highlands. No laptop, no calendar. Just me, a stack of books, and a notebook I refused to use for strategy. On day 7, I cried. Not from sadness. From silence. I'd never heard my own thoughts that clearly. And what surprised me most? I wasn't planning anything. I was feeling. When we came back, we didn't announce our return. We resumed like a tide. Steady, measured, whole. And something had shifted. We no longer ran Trask and Field. We tended it. Like a garden. Like a chapel. Like something sacred. In the final quarter of that year, a founder named Elsie sent us an email that broke our hearts open. Subject: times asterisk, not a pitch. Just a thank you. Asterisk. Body: my company failed this year. My partner left. I moved into a studio the size of my old conference room. But I still read your posts, still watched your summit videos, still use the Pulse Journal. I don't have a business anymore, but I have myself, and I think that's more than I started with. We read the email aloud at our final staff circle. Then we printed it, framed it, put it by the door, not as a caution, as a compass. Because if even one founder could walk away from the wreckage with more of themselves, we had done something right. Oh. We closed the year with a new ritual. Not KP is, not OKRs, just a single sentence from each team. Twan's asterisk. Here's how we stayed human this year. Asterisk. Some answers. Times I took 3 naps during deadline week. Times I finally said, I don't know, on a pitch call. Times I let a client hear my stutter, and they didn't flinch. Times I deleted Slack for 1 weekend. The world didn't end. We collected them into a zine. Volume 2. Printed 100 copies this time. Because more people wanted to remember. That night, I stayed in the office long after everyone left. I sat by the corkboard with a mug of tea, watched the shadows dance, listened to the hum of a company no longer built on panic. And then, without meaning to, I whispered something out loud. You made it. Not to anyone in particular. Not even to myself. Just to the silence. To the 10 versions of me who had almost quit. To the one who got hacked. To the one who cried in the hallway when a campaign collapsed. To the one who wrote a cold email to Harper not knowing it would change her life. To the one who stayed. I raised my mug. You made it. And the building? She exhaled. Not in words, but in warmth. The kind that only comes from something alive. Something tended. Something true. Nodder stay, tenda stayed. There was no grand finale planned for our 13th year. No fireworks, no champagne, no surprise reveal. Just quiet continuity. The kind that doesn't perform, but persists. The kind you only notice when you pause long enough to see what stayed standing. And what kept growing. It began with a reunion. One by one, without planning, former clients started showing up again. Not because they needed something. Because they had become something. Jael arrived first, new baby on her hip, pitch deck in her bag, not to relaunch, to do it mentor. Quinn followed with a story of how she'd turned down a buyout offer 3 times the size of her valuation, because, in her words, I didn't like the way they said leverage. Then Zara, quiet as ever, sent us a box. Inside was a candle. Label, for the rooms that made you whole again. No note, no explanation. Just her handwriting across the label. We lit it during our next strategy circle. The scent filled the room with something that can only be described as truth. That quarter, we stopped using the phrase client pipeline. We replaced it with quote, 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 which, quote, quote, which, quote, quote, blocks. Because at this point, our business model wasn't linear. It was trirelational. People returned not because we sold them something, but because we never treated them like a transaction. In April, we received an invitation. The United Nations was convening a private summit on ethical entrepreneurship and asked if we would attend as founding contributors to a global advisory framework. Harper read the invite 3 times before handing it to me. You should go, she said. They're asking for the original story. But you've built most of it now. Linnea, she said, softly but firmly, they want to hear how you kept breathing when it all collapsed, and how you decided to build again, not to prove, but to *heal. So I went. The summit was held in a vaulted glass room overlooking the Rhine. There were founders from conflict zones, artists who pivoted after injuries, farmers turned distributors. The question they asked me wasn't about growth. It was this. Tubsterisk. How do you keep going when no one believes yet? Asterisk. And I said, you remember that belief isn't loud. It's cellular. You keep going because one day, someone else will need to know it's survivable, and if you stop, they won't get that proof. That became the headline. Asterisk, belief isn't loud. It trended, not as a slogan, as a reminder. Back home, Danny launched something we didn't see coming. She called it Times the Echo Library. Times. An interactive archive of every tool, prompt, journal, and framework we'd ever built. Free. Open access. No gatekeeping. No lead gen forms. Just a single button, Nimes asterisk. If this helped you, pass it forward. Asterisk. We expected a few downloads. We received over 100,000 visits in 2 weeks. Not from startups. From TVD scientific TCCs, social workers, nonprofit teams, midwives building outreach kits. They were using our branding prompts as reflection tools, our pitch strategies as story healing, our copywriting guides as language restoration. That's when we realized we hadn't just built a company. We had built a Teletwana language of dignity. And then came the news. One of our earliest brand partners, a founder who had once built a soap line in her kitchen while nursing twins, had passed away from sudden illness. Her team sent us her journals. She'd written almost every entry using prompts from our Pulse reflections. One line read, Times asterisk. Today I remembered that I am not too small. I just haven't outgrown my skin yet. Asterisk. We wept. We printed it. Put it in our lobby. Underneath, a basin of her handmade soaps. No label. Just the smell of eucalyptus and lemon balm. When visitors asked, we said, that's what legacy smells like. We held a gathering in her honor. Founders flew in from all over. We didn't call it a memorial. We called it a tumor continuum. One by one, they shared what she had given them. She helped me price my worth. She taught me to ask before assuming my brand was welcome. She listened more than she sold. We passed a candle from hand to hand. No words. Just witness. It was Emily who said it first. We need to prepare for the next version. We were all in the garden. Spring. The jasmine had just bloomed. The company? I asked. No, she said, the caretakers. We won't be the only ones who know how to hold this. And so, we began building Talks, the Bridge Year, a transition residency for people from outside branding. Social healers, artists, counselors, poets. We'd train them to become brand stewards, not to duplicate us, but to carry the torch into corners we couldn't reach. We built the curriculum slowly, carefully, with guest mentors and open notebooks. The first cohort included times a trauma-informed yoga instructor, times a farmer with an agroecology consulting dream, times a librarian starting an archival storytelling initiative. They graduated with tears, with purpose, with maps to places we hadn't even imagined. And then, on a rainy Tuesday morning, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a copy of one of our early pitch decks, crinkled, annotated. On the last page, a single sticky note. Times asterisk. You didn't just rebuild. You taught us how to live while building. Thank you. Times T asterisk. Trina. I closed the box, breathed in, and let the ache pass through me. Not regret, not nostalgia, just closure. The final door, softly locked. We ended our 13th year with a single event. Not a party, not a summit, just an open house. We invited the city, no guest list, no VIP section. Everyone walked through our halls, touched the stories, wrote their own. And when the lights dimmed, I stood on the front steps with Harper, Sam, Danny, and Emily. We looked out over the courtyard, full of people, full of life, full of echoes. And I said, I used to think revenge was the story, but it wasn't. Harper asked, then what was? I looked at them, at the crowd, at the letters, the candles, the old deck. Reclamation, I said. Of voice, of worth, of joy. Sam added, of pace. Danny said, of softness. Emily whispered, of future. And we stood there, holding all of it. All 13 years. All the wounds. All the wins. All the proof that it had never been about the stolen client list, or the sabotage, or the press. It had always been about what came toss our son of the ashes, and who we became because we refused to let the fire be the end. 2 more great stories are next. Don't miss them! Subscribe and turn on notifications.